Hi everyone, Andre here. Today I want to give you a brief overview of how I review books. And the thing is, reviewing any form of art is very subjective. What I might like, you might not like, and vice versa. And you see this happening all the time. If you look at movies, for example, there might be a movie that critics say it's amazing and it deserves all the praise, and then you see the public scoring and it's the complete opposite. People don't like, or you might not even like a movie that certain critics says it's the best of the year. And you might think that a certain movie is amazing, and then you look at the reviews of other people or of critics, but people that are professional critics, and you see that they are trashing the movie or whatever art form you're looking at. That's the nature of subjective things. It'll all depend on the experiences that you have throughout your life and how you view things. That's why we go through recommendations in the world of books, because usually we think like that people like us will have similar tastes, they will have similar experiences, and therefore whatever they recommend, it is more likely that we like. That's why when I review a book, I look at it as how probable it is for me to recommend this book to someone else. If I give a book 5 stars, then probably I will be recommending that book to almost everyone within fantasy or sci-fi, because I think it's a book that fills every criteria that a good book for me would fill. And vice versa. A rating of 1 star or even less than that means that it is less likely for me to recommend it. Maybe I would recommend it to 1 in every 5 people or 1 in every 20. There might still be someone that I would recommend it to. It's just that it's less and less likely. But my problem with rating things is that usually people rate it from 0 to 5 stars, and I think that's a bit reductive because it doesn't allow you to actually have some distinction between what parameters do you like most in a book versus what you don't like. And that's actually a problem we have with Goodreads, because you can't just give full stars, you can't give a quarter or half stars. I actually prefer the story graph because that platform allows you to give 0.25 or 0.75 stars out of 5. But going back to my way of reviewing books, when I review it, I like to split my review into 5 different categories, and then my overall review will be just an average of all those scores out of those categories. So for each one of these, which are plot, character, world building, writing style, and enjoyment, I give a score from 0 to 5, and then the sum of it all divided by the parts, meaning the average, this is turning into a math lesson, is basically the score I give. Some of these categories are pretty much self-explanatory, like plot and character. These two are basically how well done and how well characterized the plot and the characters are. Then again, we go back to the subjectivity, because how original a plot is depends a lot on how many books you've read throughout your life. You might have read fewer books, and therefore when you read a new book, it will seem that it's original, but for someone else that has read 1,000 books, that plot might not be as original as you thought. So when I look at the plot, I tend to look at the originality, of course, but also at the tropes the author uses and how they use those tropes and how they conclude the plot overall, both of a series or of a standalone book. So for example, books that I think have great plot could be Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky on the sci-fi realm, or The Dragon Riders of Pern, the whole trilogy by Anne McCaffrey. With characters, I tend to look at how consistent they are within their world. Do they make sense? Do their actions are according to the world around them, or they seem like someone just put people from this world into a fantasy world and they are very conspicuous? Some great examples of character work are, for example, The First Law by Joe Abercrombie or The Gentleman Bastards by Scott Lynch. I think the characters in these series are amazing, and you can almost feel a relationship with them or understand them as if you were them. Not that you want to be them in the Joe Abercrombie series, but you can still feel a deep connection with them. And that's great. I think that's an amazing work in character. Next, we have world building, which is probably the easiest category to apply in fantasy and not so much in sci-fi or other genres. So when I look at this category, I look at how original the world is and how detailed it is. Do I feel like I could be in this world, that this world could exist somewhere? Or is it more like a blank canvas that doesn't have much detail and it seems like the characters just go through very easily? And most of all, how much do I have to suspend my belief in things about this world? Sci-fi books might be a bit harder because they are not just creating a whole world, and most of the times they are based off of our own planet. And so it becomes a bit harder, but then I look more at the congruity. Does it make sense? Could we possibly evolve in this direction, or our technology could be created to become something like this? And I think, for example, the series The Expanse does a very good job. It feels very possible that we go in that direction. But so if I have to mention any examples of world building, just to go for the extremes, I think on the good side, on the very well done, and for me, one of my favorites, is The World of the Wheel of Time. I think I would give a 5 out of 5 regarding world building. And I think it's just the author can explore so well this world, the cultures, and how the world works. And it's just, I think, amazing. And on the opposite spectrum, on the bad side, I think I have to give this to The Children of Men by P.D. James. I think it's a book that, regarding world building only, it didn't age very well. And I think it has a lot of points that don't feel right nowadays. And that's just, I think, bad luck. Not really bad luck. The author just looked at things, the possibility of things evolving in that direction, and they didn't. And so nowadays, looking at it, it feels old and it doesn't really make much sense as this thing could go this way. I don't want to spoil the book, but maybe you can read it. And not to say that the world building is bad, it's just not my taste for it. And maybe it will be your taste for that, and that's just a matter of you reading that book and then aligning your expectations with mine. If I'm giving a 1 and you're giving a 5, then you know that maybe what I don't like is more likely that you will. As for the next category, writing style, what do I mean when I say this? So you can have what is called purple prose, like Patrick Rothfuss in The Name of the Wind, or you can have more direct, simple writing style, like Brandon Sanderson in his Cosmere series. But I think both of these writing styles are perfectly appropriate, and I love both of these actually. So it's not much a matter of what writing style it is, but if it is well done. And of course, writing style also includes things like pacing. Is the book going too fast? Is it all action and no pauses for us to breathe? Things like that. And also, are the descriptions well done? The action, does the action feel correct in the sense that I can imagine the characters moving like that, or armies, battles, things like that? Is it good, or is it seems like all just blank again? And for the final category, we have enjoyment. This category is, I admit, the most subjective of them all, but it can make a difference between a book with 4 and 5 stars. And I created this category because there can be books where you think that they've done it all well, the character, the plot, the world building, the writing style is all good, but you simply don't have that enjoyment, that fulfillment of reading it. Or that even though you read it and you enjoyed it, it didn't quite live to your expectations. And that's where this category comes in. And of course, it's highly correlated with all the other categories. Usually, if a book has a plot that you like, characters and world building and writing style, then it is more likely that you will enjoy the book. And vice versa, if all these other categories are bad, then it's more likely that you won't enjoy this book. But there can be some differences, and that will increase or decrease the rating of the book to adjust more to your preferences. For example, The Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence. It's a book that I think is well done in some of these categories, but I just simply didn't enjoy it at all. So it has categories with a high score, but then my enjoyment is probably a 1 or a 2. I think, for example, that means that if I continue reading this series, there is likelihood that I will like this book more in the future, since all the other categories are high, and it's just I need maybe to change my perspective when reading this book, or it's maybe just the time that I'm reading it. It might not be the right time, and if I read it in a couple of years or in a month, maybe that I will like it more. But I think that this category helps me make the distinction between books that are good and books that are great. And that is it. I find that these 5 categories help me rate books a lot and help me recommend books to friends that I know will like one of these categories. So maybe this last book that I read was amazing in world building, and world building is one of my key categories. It's one that I really pay attention to. So maybe I'll be recommending this book to a lot of people. But If you feel like world building is not that great for you, then you know that this book is not for you, since the major point is world building. Maybe you like something more that is character focused. If I rate a book that has 5 in character, maybe you'll like that more. It's just a matter of looking through these categories. So I hope this way you can see my videos, observe what category I'm giving the best rating, and see if that is a good recommendation for you. Let me know what you think. Out of these 5 categories, which one does apply most to you? What do you pay most attention to? Comment down below, subscribe and like it, and I'll see you next time. Adeus!